Okay, we're back for part 2, and you can probably see the drawings on the page. The plastic that I worked on is lying over the top of the 2 drawings. I'm going to lift it up so you can see what we've got a little bit. I put it back down here, careful not to touch the drawing, because as you remember, as this has dried, it's just abstract shapes basically that I can see the drawings through, but as it is dried into a powder. So if I were to touch it or scrape something over it, like a piece of paper even, you would see a streak in it where it's wiping that off. So we're going to deal now with fixing this drawing onto the piece of plexiglass. Before I do that, I want to show you again a finished piece that used the same procedure. The toner washes are here, and you can see that this thing is very shiny. So what I'm going to do to fix it on here, this is a totally finished piece, I'm going to spray onto this clear lacquer, and that clear lacquer spray will totally adhere what we've got to the plexiglass. Now, what I'm going to end up with after I do that is a surface that's nothing like this. It's going to be bumpy and just kind of nasty. So once that is dry, that clear lacquer spray, then I will apply the fiberglass resin, which is this bad poisonous stuff, resin mixed with a catalyst to harden it, and then I'll have a surface that I can touch. It's impervious to water, it can't be damaged by moving my finger over it or anything, but it'll also be ugly. So after that, I'm going to sand down that surface probably several times until I get it smooth, and then start adding in the next step, which is the drawing over the top of it. Okay, so this is clear lacquer, and I'm going to start spraying it on here. By the way, I got a fan going in the window that's theoretically pulling some of this spray out of here. What I could do, probably after it dries, I could start drawing right over this with whatever material I want to for the line. I used a magic marker underneath it on these pieces of paper. I don't want to lift that up too much till it dries, because I don't want that stuff to run. But the bottom frog being dark, you know, I might want my line to be white, so I'll mix up some acrylic maybe and paint over it. We'll see what happens. Properly, the next step would be to seal this with the polyester resin before I do any drawing or painting into it. So here's how I mix this stuff, nasty stuff. Fiberglass resin, we're going to pour some into this cup. That ought to be enough to do this job. I'm going to put just a wee bit of acetone in it. Rubber gloves. Mix the acetone, thins it out a little bit, because I'm going to put just a little bit more. You don't want to get too much acetone, or it will eat away the lacquer that I've put on there. but mostly what this is resin, and it's going to help it flow. I've got a brush I'm going to apply it with, and we're going to catalyze it with this catalyst. I squirt in about that much, maybe a little bit more. You don't want it to be over-catalyzed too fast or it clumps up on it. Okay, so I'm going to pour it on here pretty quickly. You can see it has a tone to it. It's already sticky because I had to move over there and get the camera turned on. So you want to work fast and get this to cover the whole surface as quickly as possible. I'm spreading it everywhere. Especially, of course, I want it to cover the image. And you know, it is already drying really fast. Now, what I want to do is, once I get it covered, I want to brush it all out in the same direction. Again, as quickly as possible. You want to get brush marks out of it. This is a chip brush. I buy these at Walmart or someplace and just get a whole box of them. You know, once you use the brush, you throw it away because the resin dries on it. Once this dries, sand it out a little bit, but I'm going to let that dry. And the resin is very smelly. Fumes are all over the place, so I'm going to go play golf for 9 holes. Every time I have to put one of my resin brushes down, because if you put it down anywhere it's going to stick, I just put it down into some place like this, and so I end up with a piece of art made of resin brushes. There's another one. All right, we're back, and the resin has dried, but perhaps you can see there's some real imperfections in the surface. And so the resin has covered the surface, and I could get those out of there by sanding, but probably what I would want to do is put another coat on so that there's no danger of me sanding through the image. But what I'm going to do instead, I think, just as another kind of experiment, is work from the back side. It's the same image, just reversed, only you're looking through the plexiglass to see the image. And since it's been sanded, it's kind of rough, but if I moisten this a little bit, there you get an idea of what it's going to look like looking through there, you know, if we put the resin on it. I'm going to follow the outlines that I've made and do a better job than those rough outlines with this material here, which is an automotive pinstriping material. That will then exist on the top of this surface, and once I've finished with that image, whatever it turns out to be, maybe paint into it, then I will coat this side of the plexiglass with the fiberglass again, and probably sand it and so on. So I don't even really plan to do anything to clean up that backside. That just is going to serve the purpose of sealing the wash in. All right, I've done quite a bit of this tape drawing over here. Here's what we do. I've got a mirror. I'm taping down this white tape. Pull that away. This is too thick, so I'll take the click knife and cut along here. This is just so that I can make the curves easier. So all the junk stuff goes over here. Now I'm working on the white frog down here. So we're going to work on his toe, add a little tape to here, make a cut right there, put this back on the glass, cut away this part of the toe, and so on. And so you can see how the drawing is being done with the tape. Before I put the resin on, and I'm going to spare you that procedure because you've seen it before, the tape, especially in corners, has little bends in it that stick up. So I use a Sharpie pen because it's rounded and soft, and I'm going to go over all these taped lines and push them down as tight as I can to the surface. All right, I've put 2 coats of resin on, and here's what happened. It bubbled up the tape. I mean, it's underneath that resin, so it sticks up just a little bit. I could sand it down. But before I do any of that, nothing's going to change on it. I'm going to turn it over to the other side where I can't see what's coming through there, but I do have a really good view of the pot de crapaud, and I can see the lines through this side of the piece. So I think I'm going to give this a light sanding to get these irregularities of the surface out. And then I'm going to go in with a paintbrush and try to paint over these lines. What I'll end up with is the linear frog on this side of the surface and the lines on the dark side showing through from underneath over here.